How's it going, everybody? It's a new setup here. One in the chat, you can be able to hear me. I can hear this thing glowing, but yesterday I was talking at some points and it wasn't even glowing at all. Okay, all right, I am live. All right, so you see what the name of the topic is, but let's talk about why that's the case. All right, so you have to understand that most of these people have come here to find their own version to have evergreen content around a specific type of narrative. And nobody here is really intent on solving any type of real problems. So I was having this email back and forth with a person that I told him that it was going to turn into a show. But it was a pretty good dialogue between me and this person. Happens to be a woman, by the way. Actually, most of the emails I get are from women for some reason, even though I don't have a woman's platform. Because people are here to solve their productivity problem with the actual issues that they see here today, right? That's what they're trying to do. And so if you're not trying to find answers to a problem, you have to look for excuses to talk about the same issue over and over again. That's how that works. You absolutely have to talk about the same issue over and over again, presenting new information about the same issue and topic. And you call that dialogue. And these people don't have no problem kamikazing their way through all types of discussions to shut down the discussion. Like, let's have a conversation. Let me give you some examples so that way you can know what you're hearing while you're hearing it. So let's say you hear somebody say, "Oh, well, we've been voting for the past 200 years and we haven't been getting anything out of it." No, that's not technically true. The Voting Rights Act happened in the actual 60s, and you have to actually organize for what you actually want to do. So when you say a statement, because remember, you entering the conversation, not being invested in the outcome of the conversation itself. So you enter the conversation without knowing how anything works to legitimize your lack of participation in the process that you see other people benefiting from. You see corporate America benefiting from. You think the LGBT community is so huge and large that you can't participate in the process yourself. All these things. But they enter the conversation to stop the conversation from happening because that conversation is going beyond their limitations. Now, rather than fix their limitations by simply understanding the actual history of how we got here and how to move forward, they have actually decided on their own that I'm just going to be a troll. Why? I'm content with the way things are. I'm not going to up my level of understanding of how things are to be. And if there's any level of progression in conversation, I'm going to join that conversation to shut that conversation down. That's what you have there with the political conversation. So these same people dilute their own power so that way they can preserve the environment as it stands. Then they turn around and go to other conversations about progress and try to shut that conversation down to turn it into what their end goal is already at. Again, immigration issue. Immigration issue is not really an issue. It's an issue for unskilled people. It's not an issue for skilled people. Because here's the thing. If you was here before them, and if you had your stuff together to the point to where you can direct labor, you would be winning because of those immigrants that are here. Because see, let's talk about what's really behind the immigration issue. People don't want competent immigrants who's going to participate in the American system better than they are to be members of this country. The only immigrants that they want, these are white and black people. I'm going to tell you from the white perspective why they don't want immigrants here. They don't want immigrants here is because they're going to skill up and they're going to work hard and they're going to get to where they're actually at. For the black side, most of these people are content with being at the bottom. So is the white guys, for the most part, are content with weak competition like black people who don't want to skill up and do shit. So both of these people are mad at the immigrant who is coming here to America and participating in the system that neither one of these two individuals are actually doing. That's what's behind the immigration conversation that nobody wants to talk about in the wide open. Because I can guarantee you, nobody wants to work for Purdue Foods. Nobody wants to work for Tyson Chicken. Nobody wants to work for these actual places in the middle of nowhere. I loaded in a what used to be a limestone quarry in Kansas City. You go down underground to go get loaded. This was a paper mill. Inside this paper mill was nothing but immigrants. This is $1 billion company. Georgia Pacific isn't broke. They're nowhere near the point of being broke, but they still use immigrant labor anyway. Now, those people are not getting paid anything for being there, right? But they produce effective children, which is what you're supposed to do here in the first place with America, is produce effective children. Like in America, the power goes to the people who participate. That's right. So when you hear the immigration conversation, and when somebody is telling you that they can't skill up or they don't want to do something, these are not people who you can dialogue with. So there's no reason to have live stream after live stream proving to the entire planet that we're not great allies to people. Like that's what happens when you have these older individuals who have these meaningless conversations with a whole bunch of broken and lost people. They're merely celebrating the fact that they have failed and everybody else is going to fail as long as they have a voice. That's another reason why they did it. Don't think that they wanted men, black men within the actual workforce because it was the right thing to do. They brought black men into the workforce because the white unionizers would be able to not control those black workers because they recently got a shot to work. Doesn't matter what they got the shot to work with. That's the way that works. The same reason why they let women in the workforce. They let women in the workforce. Why? They're not going to challenge power. They just got their position to get there. And guess what? They get to be there for a long ass time. Same thing with immigrants. They get their shot. They're going to take their piece. They're going to take their ass home. That's what it is. But see, you can't stay at the bottom forever. You can't stay on that Homestead Act land forever. And if you make it a point, if you make it a point to actually create failure so that way other people can make money off of it, this is why countries have 100-year plans, 50-year plans, 20-year plans. You can't allow something like individual freedom to increase the level of ignorance in the actual populace itself. Ignorance can't be a goal. Not participating in the actual society isn't a goal. Like these people didn't fight in World War I, World War II, Korean War, you know, Vietnam War, the Iraq War, so that way you cannot participate in society. At some point, this freedom not to participate becomes a very threat to the actual system itself. You can't have dialogue with people like that. Why? They have no point. They have no type of scale. They have no reason. And they're content in chaos. They need a broken system in order for them to function. So you got to stop thinking that these people are going to turn around and start doing something else. That's not true, and that's not the case. What they're going to do, because it's a numbers game. If the majority of personnel within an environment, what's going on, Jaquan? All right. So if the majority of people in this environment thinking that they got to get the woman right first, which I vehemently disagree with, is when they're going to start living up to their actual masculine responsibility is to produce and separate from nonsense. That's your job. Getting a woman correct, right, on the same page, all of that stuff, that's not your responsibility. If somebody has choice without responsibility, you would be a damn fool to compete with somebody on that level. Because here's the thing, I've seen it when I was in Germany. When I was stationed in Germany, I seen what happens to men when you give them infinite choice. Because they had legalized prostitution over there. I seen what happened to dudes when you had infinite choice. I seen the actual effects on the women as well. And so what you see is the additive inverse of what's happening over there, over here. So over there, men had infinite choice. Women actually wanted a family, but they couldn't get a family because men could actually dilute exactly what they want out of the woman through legalized prostitution. Now, that goes on for a while. You have the woman ready to settle with the first man that they come across because they want to get to that guy before they get to the infinite choice piece. That's the effect that it had on the women over there. Okay, let's look at the opposite and come to America. The same thing. You give women options with infinite choice. Most of these men have decided that they're going to settle for the first thing that comes their way using game and all this stupid ass shit that they try within a bad marketplace environment with bad statistics, bad outcomes in order to justify staying. That is correct. Masculinity is tied to male accomplishment. Being an alpha is about the people who you can feed, not the people who you can have sex with. No, 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 no. It's none of that. So when you know that's the case, because this is a petri dish, the only thing you have to do is go to another culture. You can see things are different. But these people think their petri dish is the entire world. But see, they don't venture out into the entire world because they want the excuse to not move to better things. And the only thing they do, since this is the thing that are most are on most men's mind, is they feed them the actual level of things that they already can't handle. That's why you have this circular conversation, this endless cyclic loop, because it was never meant to stop. And it's being led by older men preying on the younger men's sensibility and lack of purpose and lack of direction, which their mother and society has freely let them be steered into. Can you really dialogue with somebody who's content in that sort of chaos? The answer is no. Congratulations, man. But that's where we are. The more you start participating in society, the less you need to talk about the things that you're not participating in and give the BS rationale of why you're not participating in it. The moment you start acting, the moment you start participating in life, the moment you start separating from those individuals who are also not going anywhere, the moment you're able to operate as a singular entity on your own, you don't know how many blinders that you have on. You're under a stack, a pile of blinders growing up in the wrong culture. But growing up in the wrong culture or a bad culture or an improper culture is no excuse for continued failure. No excuse for it. I think I was talking to Mike V, and he was talking about how women came from war torn countries to the United States, didn't lose their femininity, didn't lose their sense of self, didn't lose anything. They actually came to a better environment and they still succeeded at what they needed to succeed at. And these people came from some horrific circumstances that came here and they knocking it out of the park. So you have to ask yourself, what are you doing that you have to find all this time in the world to point the fingers out, but you don't have enough time to point the fingers in. You don't have enough time to participate in actual actions that's going to move you forward. You don't have enough time to pick from different groups of people who actually match with your actual level of personal values. That's a failure of oneself. That's how we had group failure. Everybody's feeding this level of bile to you. There is a difference between laying out things that work, and then there's a level of flavoring up BS to keep representing to people who already can't handle it. The crack or the heroin or the pill popper or the actual any type of illicit drug salesman are presenting a person with the exact product that they know that they're not going to be able to get off of. I mean, you have PhDs doing it now, coming here, giving people feel goodery, very anti progressive, anti intellectual hand jobs, and leaving them with no solutions. No solutions. I mean, but that's what happens when you lock yourself in a room and you don't have to really explain yourself to anybody. I don't think KS is really trying to help any of these people. I think he's trying to get paid by presenting a narrative. But since so many people are so lost that they think that actually him telling the actual counterpart that what she's doing is wrong is somehow going to shock them and wake them up to the actual things that they are doing wrong. I don't think that's the case. I think VGS, uh, I don't know. Because he's been all over the place. One day he's Gnostic, next day he's Black Pill, next day he's defending SYSBM, and also supports KS. KS's mission is to make money off of organizing this car crash between high value men and low value women. BGS is trying to lead people back to the plantation for the same exact reasons. because they got to make sure that they didn't fail throughout their entire life because they waited their entire lives for this actual thing to work. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it can work. I think it can work between certain people, but there's just been too much abuse across and neglect, by the way, across the entire culture for this thing to work. You have to have specially trained people to deal with this type of circumstance. You got to have specially trained people for that. You got to. And we always get this rap about how SYSBM or Passport Bros and all this kind of stuff that we hate women. We don't hate anybody. And they have so much conviction to stand on when they say these types of things is that they never want to sit down and dialogue about what they actually think. This is how the BS notion of bomb throwing and trolling has become a legitimate level of dialogue among most of these people who are not moving anywhere. Why? Because it's easy. You don't have to have any type of intellectual investment about the actual subject to which you disagree with, but you want to be in a conversation about that same subject. Like the Hood Conservative and Trader MBD, they do this stuff all the time. They come to the conversation with nothing. They listen to an actual person who's actually read up on the actual issue or topic, and then they turn around and dismiss everything that you just say while they don't bring anything to the actual topic. So you end up arguing with yourself without even knowing it. And it's not their fault. They're dumb as shit. It's okay. But it's the fault of people who keep bringing these people on to keep doing this stuff over and over again. And this is what happens as actual dialogue. Like, I wouldn't listen to this shit but one time. That's why people want to, oh, I'm just trolling. Oh, I'm just trying to organize or orchestrate a conversation that shouldn't be had between groups of people that are not compatible with each other for quote unquote entertainment. I don't think that stuff's entertainment. I don't think it's entertaining. Again, you can't keep having yourself being caught up into the trap of dialoguing with these people. You are correct, Burner. They do think things are good the way it is. And you have to understand that they're fighting for their culture. They're fighting for their culture of non participation. They're fighting for their culture of non progression. They're fighting for the culture of status quo. They are actually doing that. And this is why I also think calling yourself red pill beyond a specific set of time period also lends the credibility that you're also doing the same thing that these other people are doing. You're just doing it in a different way. There's no need in following around most women who don't know how to handle their basic sexual faculties and reporting on them endlessly. Like that's going to make that person better at choice when there's no responsibility being taken for said choice. I mean, so me and this individual were going back and forth over this email, and I'm just giving him example after example after example. And I told him, before we're done with this conversation, I'm gonna ask you a question, and it's a realistic question that you're gonna have to think about. The realistic question, and I told him that we're gonna dialogue. We're gonna dialogue all the way to the end because I don't want to just have this conversation and you not take any action over it. I want you to dialogue, have the conversation, and then I want you to turn around and tell me what type of actions that you're going to take to lessen the likelihood that you go around or be around these type of people. And the question that I asked him before I get back to all the questions that I were asking him, I asked them this question. Given everything that I just said, think about every single person that you come around inside of your life on a regular basis. And after everything that I just said, how many of these people that you really think that you can work with, that you can count on, after I just removed all the obstacles from your life in less than 10 emails? How many of these people that you want to work with, that you want to wait on before you actually get started? Yeah. The city that I was in last week, because most of these cities I stop in, there's a couple places where I go. I always go to the workforce center to see what actual jobs are hiring and what actual paid training it is within the area. The second thing I do, I start going around the manufacturing district of wherever this place is at. The third thing I do is obviously stop by the tax assessor's office and see how many people are behind on their actual property taxes, so that way I can see me some property to actually pick up and put back on the market. That's what I do when I go to most of these places. Most of these workforce people can't even get people to show up. And the people who do show up, they have to put stuff in Hindi. They have to put stuff in Arabic. They have to put stuff in Spanish. You want to know why? Those are the people showing up for the training. All this talk about immigration, none of this talk is about going to your workforce center and seeing what jobs need to be filled. The reason why the government pays for these things is because they want you to pay more taxes. So why wouldn't they give you training that's going to net them more sales tax and more property tax if you end up buying a property within a specific locale? Why would they not want free education? It's an investment in people that they're going to get a return investment off of. So if the only people showing up to this actual thing are people who are the complaints of the actual immigration conversation, then it lets you know that all the action is being taken by people who want to take it. This is why Dr. King's dream is being led out by people who don't even know who the hell Martin Luther King is. I have friends of mine that moved out into the middle of nowhere once they got their money straight, and they exhibit peace. They didn't try to feed themselves into a bad system. They took tangible actions, and they didn't get caught up in the dialogue in an infinite format with no way out of it. Even though there are women that stop by time, most, if not all, the emails that I receive behind the scene are definitely from women. How do I get my son in this program in this area? That seemed like a good idea for me to get my cousin into. How do I do that? How do I get started with that? These are the questions that's being asked. While most of the manosphere are thinking that getting the woman straight is priority number one. Getting the woman straight isn't going to make her act better. Getting the woman straight is just giving her a BFF and another bag of dicks to play with, on top of the other ones that she have, which I'm not trying to take away. You have to understand that if people don't want you to progress, they want you to be as emotionally compromised as inhumanly possible. Ask yourself after you listen to a live stream, what tangible actions am I going to take after I just sought out and listened to a specific set of information? Because right now we have this bogus idea that talking about women is going to help black boys. We have this nonsensical opinion that that is what's going to happen here. Because you keep trying to make it a black issue. It's not a black issue. It's an American issue. It used to be a black issue in the 70s, but now everybody's running on the same program now. Everybody's running on the same program. Everybody's running on the same program. So if everybody's running on the same programming on autopilot, come on, Van Black. Do you know what stops passively walking into stuff? Actively staying away from it. Actively planning your way around it. Actively, deliberately. You see, what most of these people want to do is they want to socialize these people into not taking advantage of the best choices that they already have open to them. And they want to lock these people into the worst type of options so that way they can keep continuously trying to feed you this nonsense until they break your spirits and you become a broken person who have to show up to these actual conversations asking dumbass questions that you should have already been past. I understand that these people don't need you like that. Ask yourself a question. And I'm just saying, no beef, but just ask yourself a question. Imagine your grandmother and your grandfather. Imagine if they went to KS for assistance on how to create their family. How would you think that family would end up? It's either these things are always needed, or that they're sometimes needed, or that they're not needed. That is correct. The more you show up to these opportunities, the less people you're going to see. When I was in the community college of Aurora and the community college of Denver, there was a great array of people there when I was going to classes there. By the time I move on to actual college and actual, Denver Technical College at that time, after the less classes and we came into the main focus of why we were there was literally nobody there. A couple whites, lots of Asians, some people from India, and some Arabs. That's what was there. And nobody who was black for that instance. But you have to be comfortable with that because winning don't know no skin color. It's either you can compete or you can't compete. Because see, most people don't want to compete on purpose by keeping themselves around issues that don't function. Okay, I would say this. I would say the black manosphere has empowered far more women in general than black men in specific, and white men in specific too. I would say the black manosphere has empowered far more women than it is men. You have people claiming that they're red pill content creators still talking about women as if they're not past that particular focus and goal. And that's the thing. Your whole life is going to be an away game. Your whole life is going to be an away game. Why? You have nobody trying to help you participate. But they definitely want to sit there and try to be a part of it when you get to be successful. Yeah. I still want you to go take some action after this is over. Because if you take action after this is over, your complaints become less and less. That's the difference between citing problems, having solutions, and just complaining to be, complaining to be, complaining to be, complaining to infinity. That's the difference. What type of tangible actions have you took? It's quite clear. There is no amount of game that you're going to be able to learn that's going to give you as many options as a 1 out of 10 have passively within this specific type of environment. But you can get your stuff together and move on to better quality people so that way you don't have to worry about the things at the bottom. You have the most complaints at the bottom. You have a whole lot of complaints when you're not doing anything. You actually have to talk yourself out of progressing every single time you open your mouth when you're not taking any action. You got to have a lot to talk about, a lot to make sure that you're not taking any action. Think about it. If you took tangible actions to make sure that these things wasn't going to happen to you, how many times are you going to keep running across the same level and type of behavior? This is why I stay away from it, by the way. That's not the only thing. That is nowhere near the only thing. These people are telling you that they got so much game that they teaching you how to get with random women while they've been with their same woman that they've been with for 5 or 10 years. They're telling you all of this information about texting women and all this type of stuff while they are dealing with the same person in their household for 5 or 6 years. You have married people who don't put their marriage on public display, trying to tell everybody else about the benefits of family. Like, what is going on here? I mean, but you can really do that, Sexy Red, to most of these people who never had a voice before. Having men having a voice is a double edged sword. Yeah. Yep. So ask yourself at this specific point in time, how long do you want to have these problems? How long do you want to have them? How long do you want to have them? How long do you want to conversate about them? How long do you want to keep seeing this specific failure? Yeah, it's unfortunate, soul provider, but you were right. But that's where we are. You got people trying to judge other people's masculinity by YouTube analytics. You got child support dudes calling other dudes incels and want them to feel shame over it. You have barely productive black men trying to tell you to compete with somebody who has a women's platform. And you have to understand that most of these YouTube dudes, I don't run into these type of people in my real life. I don't run into them because I pretty much have isolated myself from those types of people. You literally have people going around giving. You literally have those type of personnel. You have those type of personnel here, but they only can present a narrative to you that keeps you stuck. The grand majority of America, period, is still 5 years behind this level of conversation within most parts of the manosphere that are about progress. But that's where we are. And you got to understand that you don't have to be here forever. You don't have to be here forever. Remember, people in Generation X, and probably most of the people in the millennial generation, and definitely the people in the boomer generation, they didn't have the track record in front of you of how these things are going to turn out. Not like we have right now. Yeah. But there are people who do hang out at the barbershop who don't need their haircut so provided. For the entertainment of the camaraderie of being around people who are not serious about things. There is a place for that. This is why I stopped hanging around like the VFW and the most of those veteran organizations because it was just another place to keep that high school bullshit going, man. And there was no growth there in those spots. You had a collection of people who tried to relive their glory days in the military, just like the manosphere is a place where people try to relive the glory days of high school. That's what it is. Yep, American Legion. Yep, I had to stop fucking with them too. I probably have better conversation that paralyzed veterans of America than any other place that I've ever been to. Why? Those people are actually going through some real shit, and they ain't got time to talk about bullshit. I'm talking about people who've lost arms, people who've lost legs, quadruple amputees. Dude, you would be shocked and surprised what type of high level of conversations you can have with people like that versus other able-bodied people. Yep, BFW is good too sometimes, but you got to realize that you can't have dialogue with those people who are content with chaos. People who intentionally and repeatedly have no type of content. Why you have Sub Zero right now lying about Biden's track record when that's not happening? But you can do that stuff to people who don't know anything about politics. So you got to understand that most of these people don't want progress. They want the excuse of endlessly being able to reset and restart a conversation that do not need to be had. It's not even embarrassing to them. They see some people succeeding at it. They see their window of opportunity, and they're gonna take their shot. That's the thing. But see, nobody wanted to do that. Everybody wanted to listen to the problem, but nobody wanted to take any action to make sure the problem went away. Because their whole life is based on this problem. So with that said, got 101 people in here. Make sure y'all like the video before you get up out of here. And I cannot wait. What's going on, Ike? I cannot wait to see how this stuff's gonna fizzle out. Because you can't typically keep going on this type of road forever. I mean, you can. I wouldn't. Well, actually, I would say that it's just their stagnation zone too. Not that I'm trying to pull them out of it. No, I'm not trying to do things like that. So, but everybody else can still move forward. Can still move forward, and you got to stop trying to dialogue with people like that. You got to stop thinking that these people are just going to come around and do something different. This is all they're capable of, and that's fine too. What they want you to do is give up on individual action to make your own life better. Because if you make your own life better, aren't you way ahead of somebody who wants to try to help women? When how do you help women in your 50s? How do you do that? Sexy red. I would say most worse than that. Most of these people don't have control over their household to even have their kids around them, to even follow what they're even saying, even if it's good, because they keep making consistently the wrong choice in people to be around. But every time you choose something that has nothing to do with status quo, expect to have a lot of enemies. Yeah. What's wrong with saying that, David Little? What's wrong with saying that? Yeah. Like after my dad died and my grandfather died, the grand majority of people who was pushing me out of their community were older dope boys and older women telling me to get the hell up out of there. You can't stay here. Look at what happened to this person. Look at what happened to that person. These people already stated that they didn't like what they were doing. They didn't like the fact that they had to watch their back all the time. They thought that stuff was ridiculous. They envied people who didn't need to be in these level of circumstances. And I summarily, once I got my shit together, I went back down there and helped those individuals that gave me the actual strength to believe in myself and get the hell up out of there and do better for myself. So I came back and helped them do better for themselves. That's how that worked. That's why there's nobody left in that community down there but retired dope boys who who are thrilled that they're in real estate, that they ain't got to watch their back for everything, and most of the older women whose kids have moved out of the house. But they're the ones who went right back to the community, and I told them, gave them the advice of never letting these people who failed out of regular life, never let them move back in. You let the government take care of those people with welfare programs. You don't turn your house into a welfare program. Trust me, if you live through the civil rights movement, the last thing you need to do is be hearing kids crying and shit. I have to give them the strength to actually give up on their kids and actually let them kids do what the hell they're going to do somewhere else. You got to let people know that you are owed a peaceful life and a peaceful existence. You are not here to put up with other people's problems. You're here to give them the information and step back and see what they do with it. But see, nobody gives you that practical information. Why? They don't want you being practical. They don't want you being updated, and they definitely don't want you being better than them. They don't want you being better than them. They want to hear from you. They want to hear that you're doing bad. They don't want to hear that you're barely making it. They don't want to hear that you actually got your shit together. You touching legitimate money as a younger dude in your 20s. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear in your 30s that you ain't got no kids and you got all this money to spend and the money ain't coming to them. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that you're struggling, that you walked headfirst into the same things that they walked into. That's what they want to hear. I don't want to be the best person in a messed up situation. I don't want to be the best person like that. I don't want to be that type of person. I don't want to be the person who stayed and endured and fought through it. I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person who left. I want to be the person who went out and did things. I want to be the person who went out there. I could tell you what I've done and where I've been, and I want to show you the results. Dude, they'll do it all the time. I had that problem with my older brother once I came to Denver. He got out of prison and he wanted to prey on my sensibilities of being a decent human being like he did when I was growing up. I had to kick his ass to the curb, man. It happens a lot. And it happens to the most successful people and the people with potential. I don't care if these people get more access to women. I don't care about none of that shit. You know what I care about? Peace and quiet and things working right. That's the only thing I care about. And I'm going to keep working every single day that I am on the planet to make sure that that happens. But see, they don't want you doing that. They want you thinking about the black struggle and the relationship industry conversation that ain't going to do nothing but keep your ass at the bottom. They don't want you to see anything better than that. They don't want you. Dude, if they want this stuff over with, man, dude, this stuff could have been over with years ago. But you want to know what? They don't want it over with. Because this is what they define by. They are defined by these problems. They are defined by these problems. But do you need to be defined by the same problems? No, you don't need to be defined by the same problems. You need to be defined by different things. And that's what they don't want. They don't want competition. They want you to stay exactly where you are so that way they could be and feel better than what you're doing. I'm telling you, you damn should. You should. There's nothing wrong with you having a good ass life. If you had good ass decision making process, there is no way that you need to be dealing with these other people. Because when you stay around these other people and you make sure that they have the level of comfort at the expense of your sanity, those are the things that go wrong for you, man. Those things go so wrong for you. I want everybody to have good outcomes. Everybody. You deserve to have good outcomes. But it takes the right inputs to have the right outcomes. You can't do all these things right and then turn around and hang around the wrong type of people because they ain't got their stuff together. These are the people who claim that game work. Yeah, they here. And their perfect marriages and their perfect relationships and all this kind of stuff can't show it off to you. They want to condemn you to failure because they failed. I'm just telling you, look, if you got the right things going on, hey man, prove your point. Yeah. But I still think the space can do some good. I think that people need to support the concrete content creators that are doing good. But there's a lot of emotionally messed up people, man, and it keeps sending them back into the same problem that created the situation in the first place. Like that's the cycle that they don't get. Like you're not going to be able to screw your way out of or into a better circumstance. It's better than the actual option that you keep feeding yourself into. That's why you have to have so much more conversation cleaning up after older individuals that don't want to see good outcomes for people on the most part. Roosevelt, thank you for the 3.99 super chat. That's what we are, man. Let's say that you've been on this nonsense for a while. Dude, you could turn around, change your stuff tomorrow, remove all these problems out of your life, and you'll be better off for it. Nobody never knows. Nobody never knows. Nobody never knows all the BS that you was on earlier. No one's gonna know that unless you demonstrate it to them with your actions. They're not gonna know. And you deserve to see how that looks. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be free and unencumbered by other people's circumstances and issues. If they got their ass in those circumstances, then they can correct it on their own. Leaving people behind is not a bad thing. They left rationality behind a long time ago. You didn't see these people going around being concerned about what they left behind in order to make sure that they stay in the position that they're in. You don't see anybody doing anything like that. You got to get used to being alone and by yourself. You got to get used to doing the right thing, and because your intentions are never going to be able to measure up with your outputs on a one-to-one basis, especially when you're dealing with people with different levels of value. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. If they are content with where they are, how come you can't be content with where you're going without them? If they are content with where they are, how come you just can't be as content or more content with where you are going without them? Now, once you start to do that, that's when you're going to exhibit a level of happiness that no one can give you or take away. Once you stop caring about what these people think and what they feel and go out here to have the time of your life in your own time, unencumbered by any of these other outside issues, that's when you know you made it. That's when you know you're doing it right. But that's also a particular point where you're going to be the most alone. You're going to be the most alone the moment you start acting on your own accord for your own benefit. That's when you're going to be the most alone. First, you're going to feel out of place, then you're going to be okay with it. It's almost like when you step on an airplane and you don't want to talk to anybody and you don't want to come in contact with anybody and you ain't trying to strike up no conversations with anybody. You got this 4 hour flight to do, and that's all I'm thinking about is landing. That's how your life is going to be. Once you start acting on and by yourself and for your own accord and account, that's how that stuff be. Close that door. Hear that silence. Fix your favorite meal. Watch your favorite show with nobody there. You get content with that, there ain't no way somebody could just walk into your life and take any value out of it. But see, a lot of people don't want you to see that. They don't want you to feel that. They don't want you to feel that way. Why? They want your level of comfort to be connected to their presence in your life. You can't be comfortable until I'm comfortable with you being comfortable. That's the deal that you're signing up for. When you let people come around who don't have your value system, still come around. Like me and Mike V email each other these tiny houses. You got these people who are living off the grid. Man, these people seem so damn peaceful in a 100 square foot space where they got all their needs met, still access to the internet, and they have their whole life there. Living simple as hell, not really worried about anyone or anything, and they have the most happiness, the most exhibited happiness, not a care in the world. I like those tiny houses because I want to see the people and the amount of peace and the amount of happiness that they display while talking about their own stuff. That's where I'm at with it. Once you start setting those boundaries down, once you start deciding that you're not gonna take put up with anybody's shit, and I'd rather be alone for the rest of my damn life before I be mistreated by anybody, the moment you say that, the moment you say that specifically, you're good. You're good. And if you become good, they feel lesser because you became good. They want you in a codependent setting to where you always have to depend on them. But this coach and culturally enshrined cultural dependency is something that we got to put to an end because it's not working out for anybody. Yeah, I'm just over an hour here. I got to get back to putting these batteries in some of these trucks. So when it gets very cold out and these trucks haven't been started up for a month or two, yeah, that's when you see how good your batteries are. You try to charge them up and then it just don't work. You try to use all the lighter fluid that you want to, well, not lighter fluid, starter fluid that you want to try to get it started, it just don't work. Sometimes you just need new batteries. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for coming through on the Man Tomorrow. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. The link to the Patreon is in the actual description box. And you guys have a really nice day. I'm not trying to take the Manosphere back. The Manosphere haven't went anywhere. It's people who didn't want to be on the actual mission of the Manosphere who joined the actual Manosphere, and that's what happened. I guarantee you, you don't have to be a man to benefit from what I'm saying. You don't have to be. So with that said, on the Man Tomorrow, you guys have a really nice rest of y'all day, man, and have a productive week as well. You guys have a really nice day. Here we go with the glow plugs, man. All right, Judge. Oh yeah, man, bro. I was supposed to have you on a couple months back, man. Yeah, man. I'm about to get in contact with you behind the scenes and have you on, man. So that way you can tell your story, man. I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure you like the video. I'm on getting up out of here. You guys have a really nice day. Peace.